For those of you who missed the Super Bowl, the winner was Bad Bunny, and that's all you need to know. Hello and welcome to Queen Things. I'm your host, KJ Miller. I'm a founder, a lecturer, a content creator, a new fan of Bad Bunny because I had never really listened to his music, but that halftime show was everything. And excited to be here with you today. What are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking, obviously, about the halftime show. We simply must. And we're going to be talking a lot about Taylor Swift. Again. I don't apologize. I make no apologies. She dropped a music video. I'll be very honest with you. I thought it was very cute. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was, our girl being silly and corny and everything else. And then I didn't really think about it too much because it's a music video. Somehow it has caused so much conversation. And people are mad. Sometimes it really does throw me, the things that Taylor does that get people very, very deep into their feelings. But such is the life of a showgirl. So we are going to discuss that. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the survey results. You guys filled out the survey and I want to talk about it. So we're going to get into all of that and potentially more. Now, let's do it. Actually, I lied. Before we jump into all of our topics, a few housekeeping items. Number one, this month's bonus episode is a suggestion from y'all from the survey. See, when I ask you to fill out a survey, I don't know if you think corporate bodies are reading it and, and giving it to me. No, I went in and read every single response, and y'all left some good responses. There were a lot of fill in the blank answers. It wasn't just multiple choice, okay? And I read every single one. Loved it. One of the suggestions, I actually think all my bonus episodes for the rest of the year might just come from you guys' suggestions because you left such good ones. The very first one I saw, and this is going to be this month's episode, was I would like you to talk more about intentional decisions at the beginning of Beyonce and Taylor's careers. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I am going to do a deep dive on the early careers of both Beyonce and Taylor. I know more about this as it relates to Beyonce. I've learned a fair amount in the last couple of years about Taylor, but I actually just for myself as well am curious, about the decisions that they made, the decisions that they had access to, right? Because not all of our decisions are made in a vacuum. In fact, none of our decisions are made in a vacuum. Sometimes it's about the decisions you have access to, the choices that are available to you. For both of them, how those differed, maybe where there's overlap, how their families came into play in those decisions and in building their careers. I'm kind of excited to do that deep dive and, as always, to give you guys some of my takeaways as I'm doing it. So that'll be our February bonus episode. And thank you to the person who recommended that. I appreciate it. The other thing I just want to say about the survey really quickly, and we have closed the poll, but I'm sure we'll do another one in the future, is I honestly just want to say it was the highlight of my week reading your responses, because one thing I've learned about being a content creator is, one, it's so easy to focus on what's going to do best in the algorithm. And because the algorithm dictates a lot, it dictates who sees you. But it's one of the reasons I've wanted for so long to have a podcast, and I've had other podcasts. I've kept trying to have a podcast that sticks. I really think this one is going to be the one. And one of the reasons is I don't want to be dictated by an algorithm. I want my content to be able to be what's interesting to me, what's exciting to me, what's confusing to me. I want to be able to talk those things out in a long form way, without feeling like it's always got to be so punchy. I do care about being punchy and witty and humorous and all of those things, but to get to a point, to get to a thesis, to really think things through, it's not always going to be the punchiest version of that. And a podcast is what kind of gives me the space to have those thoughts and get to a conclusion in a way that short form doesn't always do. Anyway, the survey has reminded me and helped me see that you guys appreciate that too. Your comments were so thoughtful. I'll probably read a few of them in the coming weeks where it makes sense. And just sharing what it is you enjoy about the show. A lot of times the comments you made is, it is the deeper dives. It is, when I'm really sort of like being more transparent, and the things that maybe don't always catch fire on YouTube, or the clips that catch fire on TikTok, those aren't necessarily the things you guys are identifying with all the time, So I just want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who did fill it out, but also thank you for the reminder that this thing that I'm looking to build with this show and with this platform matters to a lot of you. Also, 85% of you who took the survey said you would come to a live show. That makes me so happy, including someone specifically called out, you have at least one fan in Idaho, and I would come to your show. Thank you, girl. And yes, to everybody in Idaho. Can I tell you that the city that popped up the most on the survey was Montreal? Okay, Canada. Am I worldwide? To quote Candy, I'm worldwide. It's Candy Burris of Real Housewives fame. Anyway, shout out to Canada. Multiple people in Africa were saying, listen, I'm in Africa, but I'm listening. Some of you expatriates, is that the phrase, expatriates? Listen, someone who moved from here to go there. And so shout out to y'all. UK popped up a lot. I truly am worldwide, which I love. I love. So anyway, the point being, I appreciate you for filling it out. I appreciate those of you who left longer messages. Some of you were like, I know this is long, but I just really want you to know who I am, where I am. I want to thank you. I read every single word. I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for the reminder that what we're doing here matters to at least some number of you. So that's housekeeping number one. That's what the bonus episode is going to be. Housekeeping number two, thank you for filling out the survey. Do I have any other housekeeping? I don't think so. So let's get into it. I'm going to start not with Taylor. I'm going to start with the Super Bowl, okay? Because I have a feeling the Taylor conversation, it could take us in all sorts of places. The Super Bowl, obviously I didn't watch the game. Who cares about the game? Some of you, I'm sure, do. I didn't. I tuned in specifically for Bad Bunny. Thank God I did. Oh, I loved it. I loved that I didn't understand a single word. I don't speak Spanish, but I felt like I understood it all. I felt like the way he performed brought me in, even though I wasn't understanding the words he was saying. And now that I've seen clips on TikTok where they include the translation, it's added another layer, and it's made it, somehow even better, because now I'm like, oh, that's what he was saying. Okay. But I didn't need to know, because the way he performed it brought me in, made me feel like I was a part of it, and made me feel like I understood the momentousness of it. I love starting in the sugarcane fields. I loved all the nods to Puerto Rico, but also to Puerto Rican culture, to bodegas, to coconut stands, to, is it called the juice stand? Paragua? Listen, please. I've already said I don't speak Spanish. But all those little nods, everybody kicking it on the front step, dancing, having a good time. Just the nod to the electrical grid and all the power outages, all of these very thoughtful moments. The wedding, Gaga was hilarious to me. She was like, as she was gesturing, singing her song, I think she was like kind of trying to salsa, but while standing still. So like salsa with her hands, which was hilarious. I love how excited she was. She's an excitable person, and I love that. I can just say, for me and my visual sensibilities, I enjoyed this performance of Lady Gaga far more than the one from the Grammys, because, it was light, it was bright. I could see her face. Loved it. I loved the whole thing. Ricky Martin took me by surprise. First of all, my husband had to tell me who it was. Now, is it just me? Or does Ricky Martin look a lot more Latin than he used to look? Like a lot more Hispanic, a lot more ethnic. Can I say that? I love it. My memory of him, I guess, is from like 2004, Living La Vida Loca. That memory and what I saw at the Super Bowl, very different. I do prefer this version over here at the Super Bowl. Loved it. And loved just like what it meant for him to be there singing a Bad Bunny song. The whole thing was perfect. And I already made a video about this. The haters who had their own whack ass halftime show that ain't nobody watched. They're over here trying to lie now, just like Trump loves to lie about how many people came to his inauguration. They're trying to lie about how many people watched that sad ass halftime show. Girl, now y'all had about 30,000 good folks watching that dumb shit. The real party was with Bad Bunny. And as it relates to everybody who even felt the need to participate in that other one, honestly, the overwhelming thing I feel for you is sad. How sad. We had a party with Bad Bunny, like a party. It felt fun, vibrant, beautiful, emotional, cultural. It just was heart-filled, joy-filled. It was so good. And in the face of that, your reaction was, let me go listen to Kid Rock, AKA the pedophile, lip sync in jorts. Ugh, that is sad. Like, honestly, sad. I'm sad for you. But not that sad. I didn't lose any sleep over it. I'm just saying, I think that's sad. Thankfully, in my household, we watched the real halftime show and had a time. Shout out to Bad Bunny. Shout out to everybody who enjoyed it. Shout out to everyone who appreciates diversity and culture. Shout out to us. And now that we've had that very, very happy moment, let's turn to the Taylor Swift of it all. I read an article. I was alerted to an article in The Independent, the title of which is Taylor Swift's Obsession with Self-Mythologizing Makes for Boring Art. Subtitle: Swift is an often exceptional storyteller and a brilliant pop star, which is why the hollow creativity of her Opalite music video is so frustrating, argues Aleem Karaj. Her insularity is isolating her, and she no longer feels part of a wider cultural conversation. Woo! A lot was said just right there. I haven't even gotten to the meat of the article. And what is so interesting to me is that this article was spawned from the music video, because the music video, I mean, I guess maybe what I'm about to say kind of underscores the point that this writer is making. The music video to me just felt so light, so fun, so corny, but ultimately so light. It didn't feel like a lot to hang your hat on in terms of opinion pieces. It's 90s themed. There's an infomercial. She's got a rock for a boyfriend / best friend. There are friendship bracelets. There's a mall. There's a dance scene. You know, nothing political happening here. No cultural resets happening here. Very light. And I think, I guess to this author's point, I think the point the author is, what she calls it is hollow creativity. I call it light fun. But I want to dig into some of what she's saying, because I think there are some points here for us to consider. I certainly have never thought Taylor was above critique or reproach. And I do think there are some points here I'd like to engage with. But I will just say, for me, when I watched the video, I thought, oh, that was cute. That was fun. I laughed out loud at a couple parts, particularly the photo shoot scene. And then I didn't really think too much about it after that. I made a quick TikTok basically saying, it seems clear to me Taylor is not open to your feedback, because all the things that y'all tried to say about this album and how it didn't fit the theme, she didn't care about that. She continued to not fit the quote unquote showgirl theme, because if there's one thing that music video didn't give, it was showgirl, because she's focused on her life. It's literally called The Life of a Showgirl. I made that quick TikTok and didn't think about it after that. To me, it just didn't seem like it would spawn too much thought, but it has. And I've seen a lot of people on the internet talk about it. And now this article, I will say this article and the thought that this writer is bringing forth is far more interesting to me than some of what I'm seeing on the internet, which has really just sort of returned to that discourse about her being secretly racist and aggressive towards Kayla Nicole. Listen, that particular conversation never really resonated with me. The song, and that's why I think, because I will say one of my mutuals, Wayne on TikTok, he goes by just Wayne. He will link to it. He made the point that he felt like Taylor basically didn't know how to read the room because Opalite did spawn this whole conversation and sort of cultural moment around her being microaggressive towards Black women broadly, but Kayla Nicole specifically. You know, the light and the dark metaphor. You were sleepless in the onyx night. Now the sky is opalite. People are saying this is a microaggression because Kayla's the onyx night and Taylor's the light blue sky. And I'm sorry, but it still to me is just kind of funny because it just feels like a reach. It has always felt like a reach. And so, but anyway, but it was a big conversation, a big conversation. And so his point was like, so given that you had this whole moment kind of blow up in your face and everyone is saying this, why would you choose to release this as a single in a music video and bring it all back to the forefront? And to me, that just kind of underscores the point I made in my video, which was because she is not open to this feedback. She is not open to feedback that just does not make any sense to her or that is not, you know, based in any sort of reality for her. And I think that particular piece of feedback fit in that bucket. Like, this is nonsensical. Y'all are reaching. I am literally talking in metaphors here, the way I have done my whole career. I'm not talking about her onyx night colored skin. And by the way, her skin is not the color of onyx. Anyway, I don't really have more to say about that. The people who really feel as though that entire song is a microaggression, I think are going to continue to feel that way. It never read that way to me. It always read as a light pop song about finding love when you least expect it. And I think that's what it was for Taylor as well, which is why I think she was not open to that feedback. Okay. So let's set that aside. What this author here is arguing is a lot more interesting to me. So this is where I sort of want to engage in the critique. So let me read a little bit of the article to you. The article begins, when Taylor Swift unveiled the music video for her latest single, Opalite, on Friday, it was pretty much guaranteed there'd be a few Easter eggs in store. Because when it comes to the world's biggest pop star, nothing from the color of her nail polish to the jewelry she wears on the red carpet is a coincidence. Then a little later down, the article says, Swift explained that she'd been inspired after Irish actor Gleeson quipped that he'd like to appear in one of her next projects. He was joking, she wrote in a post on Instagram, except that in that moment during the interview, I was instantly struck with an idea. And so a week later, he received an email script I'd written for the Opalite video, where he was playing the star role. I had this thought that it would be wild if all of our fellow guests on the Graham Norton show that night, including Graham himself, could be a part of it too. Once, this kind of Swiftian maneuver would have delighted. Swift has been hiding clues in her work since she was 15. A quote, my fans and I have descended into color coding, numerology, word searches, elaborate hints, and Easter eggs, she told the Washington Post. It's really about turning new music into an event for my fans and trying to entertain them in playful, mischievous, clever ways. Then the next paragraph, the writer says, but these scavenger hunts have grown tedious. Swift's penchant for self-referentiality and meta-narratives makes her music seem impenetrable to casual listeners, and the artist herself overly insular. With the exception of a loose narrative about the lengths people will go to in their search for the one, the video for Opalite has very little to say. Instead, it feels like another vehicle for Swiftian world building, less an expression of artistic intent and more like a self-mythologizing sales technique. Okay, I want to pause there and react to this idea that Swift's penchant for self-referentiality and meta-narratives makes her music seem impenetrable to casual listeners. The thing that I will say about Taylor's Easter eggs and, self-referencing therein is, to me, they have always existed peripherally. And so I see the videos that other Swifties make. And in fact, a lot of these Swifties are my mutuals. I've seen the videos they make where they point out all the Easter eggs happening since the beginning of time. I've spoken about it on this show before. I never catch these, but also I never look for them. I did not at any point in viewing the music video think to myself, what is being referenced here? Like, what does that picture frame mean? What does that friendship bracelet mean? What is happening on the TV, and how is it referencing another thing that she did in another time? I quite literally never have any of those thoughts. Never feel like I have to be having any of those thoughts in order to be enjoying what it is I'm viewing or listening to or seeing. Like, it doesn't take anything away from my experience that I'm not participating, and nor does it really add anything to my experience once I see it pointed out. Like, I've since seen some people point out some of the Easter eggs, or like I remember seeing people point out Easter eggs in the Fate of Ophelia video. Beyond thinking like, oh, cool. It didn't add anything for me because I am not the fan who gets a lot out of that. And I think Taylor does recognize that some of her fans get a lot out of it and some of her fans don't. She does it for the fans who do, right? The fans who love it, who look for it, who participate in the scavenger hunt. She's doing it for them. I think she understands not all fans exist in that space. I would venture to say her fiance doesn't exist in that fan space. I would be shocked if Travis Kelce had ever once picked up on an Easter egg. I'm really not trying to clown him. He just doesn't seem to me the type who's going to be like digging in and trying to find the Easter eggs. And I am not either, but I disagree with the idea that it makes her music seem impenetrable to casual listeners because again, to me, it exists on the periphery. It isn't something that she is putting front and center. Also, that's kind of the nature of an Easter egg. It's like, you get it if you get it. If you don't, you don't. It's in the background. It's not meant to be the whole story. And that's how they've always existed for me. So I see what she's saying. If you feel like in order for this music video to have any meaning, I have to know too much, but I don't feel that way. Again, I felt like the music video was very clear in its very lighthearted meaning without understanding the Easter eggs. And the biggest Easter egg, again, Taylor explained at the end. She literally at the end gave us her appearance on the Graham Norton show, because the biggest Easter egg was, hey, I put all these people that I was on the Graham Norton show with in my music video, which I had not caught on to, okay, because I'm not really familiar with, nor do I follow the careers of any of those people who showed up. So I did not put it together like, oh, here are all the people she was on the Graham Norton show with. Nope, that flew right over my head. And as Taylor typically does for the things she really does want us all to know, she explained it very clearly at the end of the video. As for all the other Easter eggs, again, I didn't notice them. It didn't take away, didn't add anything. It just existed on the periphery. So with that particular idea, I disagree. So one point this writer is making is that, all the Easter egging and all of that makes the music and the art seem a bit more impenetrable. I disagree with that. But the other point she's making is that basically the Opalite video has very little to say, right? Like, outside of the Easter eggs, it's not really saying much. It's not really doing much. To that, I have a couple things to say. The first is I'm racking my brain thinking about the world of Taylor Swift music videos. I think I've seen most of them. I'm sure there are some I've missed. I don't recall any of them, again, of the ones I've seen, having some bigger, broader message outside of like herself and her music. Or a cute little story like this about, falling in love or something. Like, I'm blanking on a time when, because this writer also in the article kind of calls back to earlier Taylor. I'm blanking on a time where her music videos were giving us like some bigger, broader message. Let me know in the comments if there's a video that comes to mind for you that was doing that. But to me, this feels very much in line with the world of Taylor Swift music videos. So I would agree. I don't think it has that much to say about culture and the world or politics or the state of, our nation. I just don't think her music videos in particular ever have. So that critique, it's like, I guess it's true, but it just sort of feels like yeah, but huh? Like, but why is it even worth bringing up? That's the first thing I'll say. But the second thing I'll say is I do think this music video is saying something as it relates to what Taylor is going to give people in the face of critique and, overwhelming feedback. As I said near the top, she heard the feedback. I know she heard the feedback about this song, about people feeling like, her music doesn't fit with the theme of Showgirl, about the microaggressions and everything else. So if she wanted to, she could have used this music video to quote unquote address any of that, or given us a different song entirely to try and get out of sort of to not bring more attention to all the things that were said about Opalite. She could have given us, Vegas style bodysuits and really amped up the glam. She could have done all of that in an effort to appease the very loud critiques that she has received for this album and this song. She didn't do any of that. Instead, she said, no, I have an idea and I'm going to do what I want to do with this idea. And what I think that does say is she is focused on doing her music, her way, focusing on her art, what's interesting to her, funny to her. She is focused on her, on herself, which is another point that this author is making. But I do think that is a thing to say. I think she is saying pretty loudly, what I care about in this moment, in this era, is releasing the art that I like, focus on the subjects that I like, doing it my way, regardless of what that makes other people say or feel. And that is a statement to make. So, if she's saying anything, I think she's saying that. And as it relates to that point, this writer has more to say that I want to dig into a bit as well. So in the next paragraph, she writes, Swift's inability to look beyond herself is affecting the music too. One of the biggest roadblocks of 2024's The Tortured Poets Department was how reliant it was on the lore of its own creator, while last year's The Life of a Showgirl is her most solipsistic record yet. The problem is not that Swift draws on her own life to create art. The issue is that she now appears unable to see that life in the context of anything other than herself. Perhaps the most frustrating thing about this is that she's proven on numerous occasions that she is more than capable of constructing narratives of great depth, from the masterful Cardigan, August, and Betty trilogy from 2020's Folklore, in which she fleshed out a tale of infidelity, regret, and longing, to Clara Bow and The Last Great American Dynasty. Okay, so this is something I've touched on before, I think with Taylor, if not out loud, then certainly in my mind. I do find Taylor's music, not just in The Life of a Showgirl, but I would say more broadly, I do find Taylor's music to be much more personally oriented and self-oriented than other artists I listen to. That is not to say she doesn't talk about anything other than herself. She certainly does. But what I say, I find the majority of her work to be very much focused on self, in a way that is a little bit less true for some of my other faves, a la Beyonce, a la Sarah Bareilles. Yeah. The question is that a bad thing? And as this writer is saying, is that a new thing, with The Life of a Showgirl and The Tortured Poets Department? I would argue it is neither bad nor new. I think that one of the brilliant things about Taylor and her songwriting is that she is able to make the specific feel universal. And so while her, I guess you could say, favorite subject is herself, she's very good at sort of picking apart the pieces of herself and the emotions she is dealing with in any given moment, and organizing them in a way that allows you to sort of find yourself in them. I think that is something she's very, very good at, something she recognizes she is very, very good at, and therefore does return to that well as a songwriter quite often. That isn't something that I think is bad. It's something that I think is a talent of hers and that I do appreciate. I can also understand someone saying, however, listen, sometimes I want her to come out of herself more. And I think she did obviously do that more in both Folklore and in Evermore. I think we got more folk stories, right? Where she wasn't necessarily the subject. But even in the songs where she wasn't necessarily the subject, do I think she was a little bit the subject? Like, do I think she was a little bit in Cardigan and August? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Um, a little bit in Illicit Affairs. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I do. Or even, this author calls out the last great American dynasty. She literally sings about herself at the end of that song. So it's like, I think part of her talent is placing herself in these moments, singing about herself, but picking out the specifics of a situation or of an emotion that can apply more broadly and more universally to us all. So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing that she uses herself as her primary muse. And I don't think it's a new thing. But I do think it's a true thing, and I understand if there are people for whom it doesn't land. Like, you want the world she's singing about to be bigger than the world she's currently living in. And I will say, Showgirl in particular, yes, it does feel relative to a Folklore even more insular, but also I feel we've gotten that from Taylor before. I don't know. It's like this author is calling it out as new, and it doesn't feel new to me. This idea that she is focused on self, and I still feel as though even in focusing on herself, we do get moments that feel broadly applicable, like the song "The Life of a Showgirl," which is a song I really, really enjoy. I'm not a showgirl, but there were a lot of themes she's pulling out in that song that I did feel were applicable to me. Like that whole bridge, I took her pearls of wisdom, hung them from my neck. I paid my dues with every bruise. I knew what to expect. You want to take a skate on the ice inside my veins. They ripped me off like false lashes and they threw me away. That resonated with me because again, not a showgirl, but can very much relate to the idea of having a mentor, having someone you look up to, taking what you can learn from them, clutching it to your chest, and then facing the brutal, brutal world, doing what you can, knowing that there are people at every step who are going to try and tear you down, whether it's people in the comment section, whether it's venture capitalists who are going to tell you your idea is dumb, whoever it may be, whether it's haters who are just waiting to see you fall. Like, I can relate to that. So she's talking about her specific situation, or even this made up situation with the showgirl Kitty, but it does feel applicable. So yeah, it's like I do see what she's saying, and I understand anyone feeling like I wish she would take kind of a broader approach to some of the subjects within her music, and that it didn't feel quite as insular. And I think if Taylor Swift were the only musician alive, or the only musician I listen to, maybe I'd have that critique for her. Maybe I'd be like, I need you to give me a bit more. I need you to talk about what's going on in the world. I need you to talk about cultural, things that are culturally relevant. But I listen to a lot of people, so I don't need any one artist to give me everything. And I feel like what I get from Taylor, even when she's being more insular and self-referential, is storytelling that feels like it speaks to me as well. Like, it isn't just about her. I feel like that's how good of a storyteller she is. I'll end with how the author ends on this last point she makes here. She says, Swift's sole point of reference has become herself, alone at the pinnacle of pop supremacy and consumed by her evidence board of Easter eggs. She has lost her once tenacious grip on the pen she used to expertly wield. The result is not only a lack of quality music, but worst of all, a glut of boring art. Someone of Swift's talents can do better. As it stands, she seems to have forgotten that there's more to being a showgirl than simply existing in the spotlight. So first, I'll just say, I think that's a very well-written paragraph. I think this is a very good writer. I like this writing, even though I disagree a lot with a lot of the points that are being made. But there are kernels in here that I do understand. What I will say is, if Taylor's next album reminds me of Life of a Showgirl, then I'll be disappointed. Because Life of a Showgirl, to me, what's great about it is that it is a fun pop album. It has some more serious moments, but by and large, it feels like kind of an unserious album. You know, like it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be light. It's meant to get you up and moving and dancing. It's not meant to be making any sort of political, cultural statement for the most part. It's meant to get your ass up. And it did do that. And I enjoyed it for that. And I don't think that makes her boring, nor do I think it means she's lost her tenacious grip on her pen. I think it means this was what she wanted to deliver with this album. If she does it twice or 3 times in a row, then I might start to have this conversation. Hey, where's the Taylor that gives us happiness? Where's the Taylor that gives us LOML? Where, you know, like, then I might start having this conversation. But I think, given that the album directly before this was The Tortured Poets Department, where she delivered some of the, I think, best songwriting of her entire career, I think to take this album and the less serious nature of it and jump all the way to she has lost the grip on her pen, it just feels like the sort of thing like, do women not get to be multiple things? Does she not get to be a brilliant poet and someone who sings wood? And I've made this point before. I think she should get to be both. I think she should get to be both. I think she should get to be corny and silly and deeply, you know, introspective. I hate the idea that anyone has to exist in a box where they only get to be one thing. And that one thing is the super serious, brilliant poet all of the time. Sometimes you want to sing about getting dick down. Okay? I imagine, I haven't penned that song, but I imagine if I were a songwriter, every now and then I might want to sing about that. It just feels like I hate the idea that she can't be both. Again, I'm not saying I could never understand this critique. I just would need 3 showgirls in a row, 2 showgirls in a row, and then maybe I want to have this conversation with you. 1 showgirl, 1 blatantly pop album, fun pop album, where again, we still are getting, I think, some serious subject matter told really brilliantly, a la Father Figure, a la Ruin the Friendship. But to take this one album and say, you know, it signals the end of the brilliant Taylor that we knew, I don't get that. And I don't like that, because I think if we're willing to do that to someone who has proven herself over and over and over to be such an interesting, thought-provoking songwriter, for sure we're going to do it to every other woman, you know? Like, and that is what doesn't sit right with me. And the fact that we're having this entire conversation because she released what I maintain is one of the corniest music videos of all time. Will never not send me. She really, ooh, you know, you that bitch when you cause all this conversation, I think is what we do have to conclude here. And somehow, once again, we find ourselves talking so much about Taylor. I'll never get mad at it. I think she gives us a wealth of things to talk about. I would love to know how you feel. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.